Welcome to another episode of Zero Ales and Hockey Tales with Wally. And today I'm so excited to have on a 41-year-old from Milton Keynes, England. His hockey journey took him to England, Wales, Denmark, and probably not Scotland because they're the worst refs in the world. His refereeing career spanned 22 seasons, the Super League, the EIHL, and another shed honey hole, the Danish Metal Ligaen, where we picked up a gold helmet. And he is probably the ref I mother effed the least in the EIHL, which is kudos to you. And he also refed in the World Championships. Welcome to the shed, Tom Darnell.
It's a privilege to be invited to such a great location. Look at it there.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful? Oh, and I just got
that's what a coffin looks like when you're in a coffin afterwards. So
oh, this is the best place in the world, man.
It looks great.
Yeah, this is where dreams come true. I get into how we know each other. What gave me the idea actually you were on a podcast right after I was 4,000 and counting. They had me on and I got to go to someone else's shed for once, right? And then they had you on.
Beauties. What a bunch of beauties. They definitely shouted at me the most in their careers, particularly Watty.
I could see that. I could see that.
I don't
think personality. I think I could see him being a little upset with refs every once in a while. And I could see him doing things that would upset the refs a bit, right?
Yeah. He played on the edge. You played on the edge. I don't think I really ever had an issue with you. Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, like I don't think I was ever trying to upset refs. I just went out and played.
Yeah. Why was that? Why did you get along with us so well?
I thought that I still think the same coaching kids now is that if you're going to be screaming at the ref and being a donkey, then the next time it's an iffy call, probably not going to be on your side, right?
I got another philosophy. I think also, I'm not trying to suck up to you, but I think the better players probably got on the ref's back least. They had least to complain about.
Well, I don't know, because a lot of skilled guys, they want to whine about the non-calls, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I always found it easiest to deal with the tough guys and the best player and the skilled players. They were the two, and the Brits. It was those mediocre. It was those mediocre imports that caused all the trouble.
It's the guys that don't quite know what role they're supposed to be. They're confused. They're upset.
Exactly.
I knew I wasn't the tough guy. So
you can mix it up. You mixed it up a little bit. You kind of threw a little punch and then got out there.
Some would say I beat up Kevin Noble. Well, actually, I would say I hung in there with him, but that guy is a donkey and he ain't coming to my shed.
I was on your side for that one for sure.
Were you reffing that game when he took Carl Hudson's knees out and then I decided to fight? I was the first one there, so I fought him.
No, I might have been on that one, but he was a loose cannon.
That was one of the dirtiest plays I had ever seen, man. And it's like, what are you doing? We're playing in the UK league for not a lot of money. We all got to work after this. And why are you trying to take a guy's knees out? Like, punk.
His more than one occasion, his netminder and his coach would literally say to me, "Can you speak to him? Like, what is he doing?"
Right. Yeah.
He's your guy.
And then I remember after that, right? So I was the guy that fought him because, teams got to do what they got to do. But like Batchy, Salts were all on the ice. And Todd was like, "Hey, man, I know you it was great. You fought and everything, but probably could have left it to the big boys."
Everyone's got to contribute.
I told the wife I had to get in one more fight. I had to challenge myself one last time before I retired. And then it was right there,
Did you have that written in the contract, a fighting bonus?
No, I should have though. What are you drinking there? What is that?
That is an Aspel's cider.
Oh, lovely. I like ciders.
Yeah.
An apple cider one then. They got pear ones now and all sorts of weird ones.
I'm not into that.
I'm not either.
Into those. Just straight down the middle, apple cider.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. So I get into how we know each other. So the 2014-15 season, you were reffing, and then the next year I got hurt. So Yeah, you probably wouldn't have known what I was up to, but you refed in Denmark. Which year was that? Was I there running amok with Corey Quirk?
I don't think you were. I was there. I can't remember.
I feel like you guys did like an exchange program, because I remember the year I was in the EIHL in 14-15, there was a Danish guy came over to that. I remembered him reffing in Denmark because he was a good ref.
Jakob Grumson, I think, maybe.
Yeah. I never knew the refs' names. I knew Rosie. I knew you, Hicksy, you know?
Yeah. So it started with an exchange program, and then Hicksy and Doltz, they both made it a regular thing. And then I kind of tagged along and said, I fancy, because we were still doing 3-man system in the UK and they were doing 4-man system. And I was like, if you're going to progress and get a shot at doing a top world championship, you've got to be doing the 4-man. And that sounds like an easier gig. You're only having half the work. So let's get out there and do some games in Denmark. And I don't know what you found to that league, but I thought it was, almost like it was a bit clinical. Like I kind of looked forward going back to the EIHL.
I thought it was the softest league I ever played in.
Yeah.
I don't think there was enough battling and competing. I thought they were fast and skilled.
Yeah, same. And I kind of grew up, I actually think the UK league is one of the toughest to ref, because it's like there's shit going on all over the place.
And you were doing that with the 3-man system. My goodness, you're going to miss a lot of stuff. And I have a lot of that written down on my notes here. The research team has a 3-man or 4-man system, or then probably learning to ref, you're probably a 2-man system where you're doing the lines and reffing, right?
Well, actually, I never did that much 2-man unless a guy pulled a shoot or we had an injury or something in an EIHL game, because I finished playing when I was 18. I was not good enough. I wanted to play, but I wasn't good enough. So I started to ref, and I think 2 years after I started to ref, I was in the Super League. So as a linesman, so I never actually, you got 50,000 officials or something in Canada. Then there's like 250 officials in the UK. So
is there even that many? I wouldn't have guessed there's 250.
I think about 250, or there was back then. And so I ended up getting, pretty much fast tracked in as a linesman in the Super League, looking like a skinny rat. It was. I saw a photo the other day.
And you're 20 years old as a linesman. That means the linesmen are the ones that have to break up the fights, right?
Yeah, and these guys are absolutely huge. Like there was a guy, Kuwabara, I think his name was for Belfast, and he was just an absolute mountain of a guy. And just going in there, but you had the respect. Like when a fight was done, the guys kind of split anyway. It was pretty rare that there was a crazy situation where you had to go in there and drag them apart.
But as a ref, I got curious questions now, because you're my first ref in the shed. Do you find most hockey players stick to the code? Like when the fight's over, a guy's down, it's over. But then you'd see the fights where a guy's down and the one guy keeps going, and you're like, come on, man. And then you got to break that up, right? And you're like, what are you doing? Like, follow the code.
Again, the better guys and the real kind of role players that knew their role in that sense, they'd do their job and they'd split. Again, it's the guys that are a little bit not quite knowing their role and it maybe a little bit more immature to it that are the ones where you have the biggest problems. But the guys that are there to play that tough guy role, they're the nicest guys. Like, I'm sorry, did I get you a little bit there? Did I hit you a little bit? Sorry about that. And he's like bleeding out of his eye.
I always find the tough guys, I always had a shine for them. I can't imagine doing the job they had, but they were always the nicest guys in the team. And I always had a shine for them and my goalies. I don't know why. And my line mates. Those were always my closest.
That's kind of it. And sometimes it gets wild. I mean, there were a few games, particularly between Cardiff and Coventry before you were over, where we had absolute gong shows where they were fighting in the bench, and you've probably seen the YouTube clips where guys are coming out, they've been thrown out of the game, they're coming out in their civvies and still joining in the fight. You've got Coventry's coach at the time, Paul Thompson, throwing a stick like a javelin across the
and
sky
those
dome
are the videos you'd see like when I was playing elsewhere in Europe, and you'd see these videos of hockey in the UK, and that's when I guess the UK wasn't getting a lot of credit around Europe and the hockey world, and they've cleaned that up, and now it is high-end hockey, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, I think they've done a great job. I think it's found its level. I hope it's sustainable for at least 10 teams. You see some worrying stuff in like Fife. I think they're getting 800 people in, and that's a shame because that was one of my favorite places.
They're only getting 800 fans. That I love playing there because it'd be like sold out.
Yeah, I saw that the other day because I think they've struggled to get the fans back after lockdown, and that's a shame. And you kind of, whereas Dundee, they must be doing something wrong because Dundee, their crowds are going up.
It's all about how you play though, right?
I think so, and I think that is part of it. I think the products, maybe they've got the right balance of a team. They're getting beat quite a lot, but I hope that the league continues to thrive. My good old buddy Hicksy's kind of running the hockey ops side of it and doing a good job, and I think it's got a rightful place. It should have a little bit more professionalism in terms of how it's seen, maybe in front of the media and so forth. I don't think it gets the credit and the coverage that it warrants, but I think it's found its right level. So hopefully it's sustainable.
Yeah, I agree. And it is kind of tough, but almost every league in Europe has their favorite or the top teams, right? And that's kind of how the UK has turned out to be, right? You got your top three, Belfast, Cardiff, and Sheffield, and then you got the next tier, and then you got kind of a bottom tier, right? And it's kind of strange when things don't go in that order, right?
It is. I mean, you're going to have Nottingham fans kind of going wild now, but that's true. They're not.
they're just not that good anymore. Sorry.
They're just not that good.
But you host a great playoff weekend.
Yeah, well, I mean, they should win that I mean, Nottingham's quite a good party town as well, so I think they got a bit of a problem with players maybe go a little bit wandering off into the lace market.
They're having too much fun because it's a healthy balance. You got to have fun and still be focused, right?
Exactly. Same
so
for the refs.
What's it like for refs? Do you guys like if you had? How do you determine if you had a good game or not? How do you know when to get on the pints?
Well, we go on the pints every game.
I thought so. Okay. So you just like the refs here. I've befriended a couple of refs in town, and I was at the local tournament, and I went into the refs room, had a couple pints in between games. It was fun.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I think I was saying this to the guys at 4,000 and counting, that you kind of know, you got this kind of feeling and a flow state thing going on, and you're like, I got this game where I want it. And I said I've always said this, it's a hard thing for someone that it doesn't play or part of the sport at that level. Fans know a lot. They know far more than I know about players and stats and things like that. But in terms of this mysterious game management notion, that's a hard one to get across and to really understand. But when you've got that game right where it needs to be, and it's just a fact that each game is different. Each game has a different tone, has a different level of intensity, has a different choppiness about it, and you have to manage the game accordingly and let the players play the game. And sometimes you've got to be unpopular, and you've got to be a dick, and you've got to call penalties that are unpopular, and you've got to make calls that you don't even want to make. The worst one ever is the puck going over the glass when you're killing a 5-on-4, and it's the last 3 minutes, and the puck's sailing out over into crunching a fan in the head in the front of the Sky Dome there, and you're like,
and you got to get the delay a game, right?
But I got to give you a penalty right now, and you don't want to do that. So. But if you've had a good game, and if you've had a terrible game. And actually,
do you think the refs have to do with those games like getting away? You say like the fighting in the crowd or whatever, guys coming back out of the locker room and fighting back in the day. Like, do you think when games get out of hand, the ref it can be to blame sometimes?
Oh, sometimes, yeah. I mean, I had one that got away from me really early when I became a ref, switched from being a linesman to a ref, and it got away from me. Got a situation in Coventry where players were, bumping the goalie in the crease, and I was trying to let them play and trying not to get tons of penalties in the first period. And I realized if I look back at it, I should have just stamped it out in the first instance.
Call a couple right away and then get it in line.
Yeah, and then it got out of hand. There's a great video where Brad Cruikshank, I don't know if you know Brad Cruikshank, but he gets tossed out of the game, and he just goes to the door to leave, but then he looks at the goalie. I think it's Curtis Cruikshank. It might have been Curtis Cruikshank in goal. He looks at him and he goes, "I'm going to run the goalie right now," and gets away from the linesman, runs the goalie, and it just creates
melee.
The goalie literally ducks down and lifted him, and he flew through the air. It was like some sort of WWE wrestling move. And in that specific game, the crazy thing was one of the linesmen had got injured in the first period. So it was just me and one linesman, and it was a bench brawl, a bench clearance. And we're looking at
what do you do in that situation? Do you look at which guy is getting beat up the worst and try and help him, or how do you decide who to help?
You kind of you pick the guy that's probably causing the most trouble. There was I think it was Penner. He was skating around with his like equipment hanging off, and he's like falling over his shoulder pads that are like dangling down below his skates. And you kind of go, right, Penner, we're going to get him. I think Guy Lepine was on the ice. Like, okay, he's going to kill someone, so we're going to get Guy Lepine next. But then it kind of just, guys get tired and they're like, I don't really want to get hurt. We got to get on a bus tomorrow at 4 a.m. and go to 5. So there's probably,
and then the coach starts getting involved, right? Even if it's a line brawl, you got a guy down, it's kind of like, okay. Yeah.
But sometimes we're to blame. Sometimes we are, but I think it's rarer than the blame gets attributed on social media and guys are going wild about, the refs wrecked another game. You got to take a bit of ownership and go, well, we didn't play very smart tonight, and our guy went and speared that guy in the balls, and that flamed it up, and the ref can't do anything about that. You just call what you see.
I always find it interesting, like the teams that whine about the refs and everything. It's like, well, maybe if you were moving your feet more, you wouldn't have taken the penalty. Like, it's not like the refs go into a game like, I'm going to give it to this team, right?
Exactly. Like, never won.
Unless you go to Scotland. Then they are totally ready to give it to you, and you take it and you like it, and then you still try and win the game.
There was a funny one in Fife one week where I used to love going to Fife. Like you say, like the energy, the building's old, it's like a proper barn, and they had a good crowd back then, and it was just wild. There'd be like an 80-year-old woman in the front row just giving you absolute abuse, sitting right behind you in the penalty bench. But the goal judge down one end, it was I think they were playing Sheffield Steelers. Sheffield Steelers scored a goal, and the goal judge smashed his clipboard, threw it, and then put the light on.
There's definitely some homers around the league.
yeah.
But that Fife is an interesting arena, and like the fans, like you said, the 80-year-old chirping you, like, yeah, and like the crowd's like right there for the players, and man, could be awfully rude.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're there, and I think Coventry sitting right at the front there. But I only got attacked once. I got physically punched.
You did,
but that was in Peterborough. I don't know if you ever played in Peterborough. That was another special place.
By a fan or a player?
By a fan, yeah. Yeah, we would go walking out. Probably. He bought me a beer actually a couple of weeks later, but he punched me in the head. I was wearing a helmet, so it was
and then he bought you a beer.
He bought me a beer, a couple of weeks later.
Nowadays, the guy would be banned for life from the arena, right?
Oh yeah, he wasn't banned. It was like, you better send him a message and apologize. And he found me on like Facebook or something, sent me a message saying, sorry about that, I'll buy you a beer next time. And it was like, hey, okay, yeah, cool.
Speaking of that, is I've had lots of people tell me they're going to buy me a beer when I go to Cardiff. And my new idea is I'm going to raffle off these jerseys one at a time and keep raising money to bring the Waltons back to Cardiff, because I think it'd be really, really neat and a once in a lifetime thing to bring my kids at this age to kind of see what it's all about and I think the fans would give Colby and Zoe quite the reception when we got there. So I'm going to get some raffles up, but right now there's 1 day left in the Elmira Sugar Kings jersey raffle at ailshockeytales.com. So you'd have to get on it like by the time you listen to this, because it's done tomorrow. But I just looked before we got on here, sold 201 tickets for a Sugar King jersey. That's pretty cool, eh?
That's awesome. I'm going to be bidding on the Ales and Hockey Tales jersey, because I need one of those in my life.
Well, and then I'll probably do like one every 2 weeks and just keep it going until we raise enough money, folks. So I'll just keep making them, keep raffling them, right?
Get your tickets
till we can get to Wales.
It's a shame that your kids wouldn't have seen the infamous BBT.
I know. I loved that rink. It's very similar to a lot of the rinks that my team plays in now. Like they're all old, like barns. They're great.
Yeah. I mean, I used to love it there. And I actually think.
Do you not find as a ref, you'd be more into it in a rink like that than say going to Sheffield that's big, or Nottingham? Like there's so much ice and the guys aren't close. There's not as much battling, and like there's not as much slashing and hitting and just bumping and grinding, right?
I think they should just flip it. I think the UK should play on like more of an NHL size rink.
I think they should. I think they should embrace the type of hockey they have and not be full big ice. That you should. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that game there and Manchester, that basically has the same dimensions. I think the games there are exciting, and actually, you'd think that it would just be a bit of a disaster with the size of player, but it just makes for a much more exciting game. I think it's too expansive.
There's way more stuff happening.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, when you see it on TV, you see a game in Sheffield, and it looks really weird because first of all, they've got 7,000 logos printed on their ice, and secondly, it's just huge. You see a guy going coast to coast, and it takes 20 seconds for him to get across.
I remember when a guy would dump it in. I'm like, you actually think I'm going to skate all the way in there and try and get that from a smooth skating D-man? There is no chance I can get that puck. Do not dump it in here because I can't go get it. BBT, you just have to know where to be.
You have to know where to be, exactly. And sometimes not, because sometimes it would ping out at a 90-degree angle and you're in a lot of trouble.
Just like the old Elmira Arena growing up. Yep. So ice research team found that when you hung them up, it was after a Nottingham Sheffield game. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So how'd you know when to shut it down, and why'd you do it in mid-season? Isn't that a mid-season game?
Yeah, it was New Year's Eve. It was New Year's Eve.
You just wanted to get in one, or what?
Well, yeah. Well, it was a good night to have a kind of closing out party. But I picked that game. I didn't know if I was going to do that season at all.
Okay.
And then I started it off, and I just wasn't enjoying it at all. And I never did this for the money. The money was nice and paid for a holiday and some beers, but it was never that kind of thing for me, really.
It was a passion,
and I just stopped doing it.
Yeah. You'd be giving up a lot of your life, right? You'd give up a lot of your life to do that. You said 22 seasons, and they play hockey games on weekends. So you basically gave up your weekends for 22 years.
Yeah, exactly. And, I lost the marriage over hockey. And, it's affected, friendships and family time and enjoying life and traveling and whatever else. Don't get me wrong. I loved it for 21 and a half years. And, I've got a whole set of friends that I miss a lot, because I don't see them every weekend. But it's a lot. It's a big commitment. And it was just time. And, I guess the playoffs would have started in March. So it would have been a couple of months after. And actually I ended up making the smartest choice ever, because then by the end of Feb into March, the whole season got shut down anyway because of COVID. So I was like, okay. So
that's the time for this. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I forgot to mention, where and what are you doing now?
So I have a company which I run with a couple of other guys that is all about audio. And actually, it was another reason why I gave up the hockey, was I was just fully invested in that. I've been fortunate enough to do quite a few different things over my day job career, generally in the kind of world of marketing and sales and commercial stuff. We have an audio technology called Iris Clarity, and actually it's running now. So if I clap like this while I'm speaking, you can't hear that, right?
You're actually clapping?
You couldn't hear me clap. You couldn't hear me clapping.
You're not actually hitting your other hand, are you?
I'll turn it off and I'll do it again.
What? It's like you're made by editing team.
I will set you up. I will hook you up, Wally. So we did a bunch of stuff with the Red Bull Racing Formula One team with their audio on the pit wall, and we do a bit with NASCAR and hopefully IndyCar. Yeah, so
could have used it with my under 11s in the shed last night. It was a fiasco with all them in here. My gosh. Yeah,
we can tune it to filter out the parents complaining from the crowd. If that's
can you get them to stop screaming at their children?
Yeah,
because that's all I want. If I want the kid to hear something, I want him to hear me yelling, not your parents, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it we got a good company going, and
you were just in Austin, Texas last week, right? When we first started talking about doing this, you were in Texas. That was for work.
Yeah, I was at the South by Southwest Festival, which I saw Dolly Parton.
Oh yeah,
live.
She can't be a spring chicken anymore. She's got to be older by now, eh?
She's like 74 years old.
Was she still rocking it?
Still rocking it. She's had a lot of work done because she looks about 40 years old. So there's something going on there. But it's good. I get to do that. I get to travel. And I do check in with the guys. I stay in touch with the guys. We got, WhatsApp group, and I hear all the stories and I see the videos. Sometimes they're like, what would you call here, Dance? Would you call a penalty here or not? And I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Nah, let them play.
It's kind of like for me with like the teams that like either win or lose a game, and they're all taking it to heart and they're like down the next day, and I like don't know and I don't see it. I'm just like, hey, what's up? And they take every game to heart, and I guess the refs take every call to heart still, right?
Well, I think there's two things. I think the first thing is if I screwed up in a game, that would stay with me for like.
Yeah,
guys shouldn't.
It's like when you have a turnover and the other team scores and you like lose the game. That shit sticks with you.
It sticks with you at least until the Wednesday, and you're kind of thinking, shit. I want that moment back. Of course, you've got the fans sliding into your DMs, and I actually had a fan, some hockey fan, slide into my Instagram DMs the other day, which was the first one in a while. I was like, this is great.
Yeah, you get a little banter again.
Little bit of banter again, and that I used to quite enjoy that. I used to find it quite funny. But some people need to just get a life. They need to chill out. They need to get laid. They need to just have a bit of a life.
Have a pint. Do whatever you got to do to smile. Right? Like cheer up. It's like the negativity with fans towards their team too. It's like, why would you be so negative towards the team that you supposedly love and you want to do well? When you say all this negative shit, it doesn't help anybody.
No, exactly. And I've never really got that, and I've got no respect for it. And if people want to do that, then crack on. I never really blocked. I only blocked very few people where it became just disgusting, really obnoxious abuse. But generally speaking, if you want to say that I'm a dickhead and I made a bad call, it's fine. Half the time it's amusing, but some people took it to the next level. And it isn't unique, like you say, to the refs. They're doing the same thing for the coaching staff, for the players.
Yep.
And it's like, get a grip. And they're the same people that are down there at the bar would never say a word to your face.
No, they would not. Yeah, you're
never
right.
They'd be there in the corner like, can you sign my jersey?
Yeah. And then they hit Twitter and say, yeah. That's not the Shed family.
No, damn right.
So you're in Milton Keynes now though?
Yeah, I live just outside Milton Keynes, in a little village, and travel into London pretty much every day for work on the train. So I've got the business 9 to 5 job now. And
okay, I
skates
want
have-
to. I still want to learn more about it because obviously you're quite talented, and passionate at it, or however you got this going. But the clapping thing's still freaking me out. So, what all does this do? Like, what exactly does this do? I don't.
So we have it's AI technology. It's trained on many thousands of hours of noise and many thousands of hours of voice. And then we just separate the two. So we say we want to keep the voice and we're going to get rid of the noise. So obviously, if it's a Formula One car, that's, you know, high engine revs and all of that, you know, wheel gun noise and whatever else. For this, you know, if I don't have a dog, but if I had a dog barking in the background or cars going by in the street outside, it's picking up on that and it's just removing that out of it. And it's just running here as a little.
So it would be like me having an editing team.
It's exactly like that. It's you know, there are other tools that do the same or similar things to help level out the noise. I think the shed looks like it's well insulated there, so you might be doing pretty well.
Yeah, it is insulated.
Yeah.
From friends coming over to help set this all up. Thanks, Kent and the boys. So did they do anything special on your last game there? Because I think I remember that Lee guy might have played his or refed his last game when I was playing in it in Cardiff, I think.
Lee Young.
Yeah. Right? Was his last game in Cardiff?
No, his last game was actually in Nottingham at the finals weekend.
Oh.
But I say that his last game was the final, the playoff final in 2018, maybe. And then by the first game, the following year, he unretired and came back.
Yeah, I remember something going on one of the games I was playing. Maybe he was doing his final tour, but I think he didn't retire or something. Yeah. Okay.
He decided to stick around. So we gave him a shirt in a frame, which they gave to me too, which was very lovely. But we laughed with Lee because it's got like the little brake hammer in emergency. You break the glass, take the shirt back out, and then he got back on the ice. And there's been moments where I've thought maybe I want to go back.
Well, and that's the thing, right? It's like if you're not injured, if there's not something physically wrong with you that you can't do it, you're going to have that temptation if you miss it and it was a passion, right? It's the same with me with hockey. Is like, you know, you really want to do it. And it's like, yeah, really.
Does it help channeling it through with coaching your kids and the
coaching the kids has brought back everything I missed about hockey. It's a different role as the head coach and but I get it. It's more fun for me because I have more control over like the atmosphere of the team, like how much fun they're having. I get to, you know, we planned so much team stuff for them because like they're a family and I see these kids becoming brothers. And I know they're going to be friends for life. And it just warms my heart. So yeah, fellas, I just got your posters from last night printed and I'll give them to you at practice tomorrow. And I hope you like them. You know, I think these kids will remember this season. We're having some fun. We're going to the All Ontario finals in a week and a half here. So 2 weeks.
Where are you actually? Where are you based?
I'm in Kincardine, Ontario. It's right on the shores of Lake Huron. So Michigan would be across the lake from us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. West coast of Ontario. Mm-hmm. No, it's awesome here. Yeah. Okay. What would you prefer? The 4-man, 3-man, or the 3-man system?
The 4-man all the time.
Okay, so here's my next question then, because I see it happen around hockey all the time, and I'm not a ref, but when something happens down, say, below the goal line, and the guy that's below the ref that's below the goal line is not calling it. He looked at it. He watched it. He's right there. He is not putting his hand up. But then you get the donkey at center ice that decides to call it and trump the guy that's down below the goal line. I've never understood. If I was the ref below the goal line, I'd want to skate out to center and fight my other ref buddy because he's showing me up out there.
Yeah, that happens, and that is not popular.
It to people? Did you do it to people? Were you out there at center doing it?
No, not unless I had a good reason. So you can so the guy out there, you know, you've got your areas that you're looking at. The trailing guy needs to be, you know, having a bit of a wider field of vision and seeing stuff off the play. The guy that's deep and and below the net needs to really be on the battle at the puck or at the net. There are rare situations where that guy gets caught or he's distracted by something or he gets bumped on the boards, and the guy out in the zone needs to have that wide vision and take over, or where the players are going around. The situation which you see the guy in center ice calling penalties more so in the NHL is where maybe there's guys going around the net and the backs are to the guy that's down low, and there might be stick work on the hands. But those are the only situations. If you've got a situation where there's, and this happened to me, and I won't call out who did this to me, but someone did.
I'm sure he knows.
Where there was a hit. It was a hit up the wall and down deep, and I'm like, good hit, guys, because I was quite vocal. I talked quite a lot to the guy. Yeah. That's a good hit, and I look around. And I'm
know what? We couldn't hear you whistle because of your technology.
There you go. It works. And I look out, and there's a penalty being called on that hit. And then, of course, you just end up in a situation where the teamwork between your officials is not where it should be. And also, I've audibly told the guys, "Hey, that's a good hit, boys. Let's go." And then
the guy shows you up and calls
then the other guy's going, "I don't think it is."
So then that's what you guys would discuss in between periods and stuff then, eh? Like you guys would go into the room and be like, okay, so why did you do this? And you saw that, but why didn't you call that? Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty rare, but it has happened. I think, I'm yet to see a situation where the whistles get dropped and, the refs go at it, but I'm all for it. If they want to do that, they bring that in, that would be a new dimension. That would be a typically EIHL thing, by the way. If that was to happen, I think that would be like.
I'm surprised it's never happened in the hockey world. There has to have been two refs go at it when the guy at center trumps the other guy, right? But who knows? Who is your favorite guy to ref with in a 4-man system? What ref would you be really excited to ref with?
Well, Hicksy and I did a lot of games when he was still doing it, and we did a lot of games international, Denmark and the UK, and we were always on a good level. There's Liam Sewell, who was kind of a bit newer when I was just finishing up, but he refereed. He really could have broken through into the NHL as a British guy. He was refereeing in the American League for a couple of years there, and just an incredible skater, like. Absolutely phenomenal skater. I always had a smooth game with Toby in Scotland. I don't know if you know Toby Craig.
I don't know him. He's probably one of the ones I always complain about.
Probably, yeah. But me and him always had a good ride. When we called games, we actually called a no-hitter in a quarterfinal, actually in Fife against Sheffield, and I was and there was a situation with Ben O'Connor and I think Matt Nickerson when he played for Fife.
Oh yeah,
they had a bit of a coming together, and I skated over to him. I was like, "Don't fuck this up for me, guys. This is a no-hitter. Don't fuck this up for me."
So you guys want to go without calling a penalty if you could?
Well. When you get to like 53 minutes of a game and you haven't called a penalty and you haven't needed to call a penalty, you kind of think, well, we've done our job. We've let this
it'd be hard to pull the whistle out at that point and call one, right?
It'd have to be a pretty good one. The Simsy was standing down the side, getting a bit, not chirpsy. I quite like Simsy, but he said. He leant over in a stoppage play. He goes, "I guess it's going to have to be murder today, is it, Dance?"
That's one of my questions then. Was there anybody that was really good at chirping you that like actually made you laugh? Who was the best at chirping you?
There's one person, and he doesn't play. It's Dease.
I had him written down and I said, Dease, and I have best, worst chirps. I didn't know if he was going to be the best or the worst.
Both ends. Dease is a good mate, and the stuff that he would do and do in the middle of the game when you're skating by, but he'd take his job so seriously and do it, what I understand to be, a great job with the teams. But, the stuff that he would do, like he'd be squirting a water bottle with absolute precision into the defenseman's glove on the point. You know, go straight in the back of the glove, and the players coming over to me going, he squirted water in my glove, and I'm like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah. I think that's when hockey was hockey, though. Like when you have the NHL now and every single thing is videoed and you can't get away with any fun stuff. Like that's what made hockey was Dease spraying a guy in the back, like in the back of the ankles right before a face-off, right? Like he's all that stuff I think is hockey.
Yeah, he's an absolute beauty.
You're right. That's why he's been to the shed so many times.
Finner was good with his chirps.
As a player or a coach?
He's better as a player than a coach, because I think he has that frustration that the game isn't going. Because he was a very good player, so you know, when stuff's not happening quite how he wants it to happen, I think he gets quite frustrated as a coach. But one week in Manchester, the sponsor hoarding came off, and we're trying to screw the rink staff are trying to screw the sponsor hoarding back onto the side, and they're making a meal of it. They're making a terrible job of it. So Hoagie, who was another guy that I really enjoyed working with, he gets the screwdriver and he starts screwing the thing in, and Finner and Hoagie literally clash all the time. So Finner leans over and he goes, that's the first good thing Hoagie has done ever since he took up refereeing. And he'd come out with
real quick. Yeah. I miss the chirps around hockey. There's some good ones, you know. And then you have the guys that just keep chirping and they're brutal at it, you know.
Yeah, you got to be good at it. The best chirper on the officiating team is Lee Young. Younger is a beauty. He was walking out. It was Boxing Day, because they obviously love a game on Boxing Day. He was walking out in Guildford, and I think it was Ryan Aldridge who was that player coach of Basingstoke, or played for Basingstoke, and he come walking out, and Ryan Aldridge looks at Lee Young and he points at his skates and he said, Father Christmas didn't bring you new skates. And quick as anything, Young turns to him and says, what did you ask for, a regular shift? And just walks straight by.
Oh man,
absolute beauty.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, when the refs would chirp you, you know, it can really sting when a ref starts chirping a player. That's when you know.
If it's a good one.
I actually remember the game in hockey that I chose to stop chirping anybody ever, unless I really needed to. But it was in the East Coast. We were semifinals, about to go on a power play. It's game 7. I was right into it, so I thought I would get under his skin and be mean. And I said, do you really think you should be on the power play right at the start of the shift? You know, and I did think he should be on the power play. He was a good player, and I was just being mean. And then I showed up. We win game 7. We're going to the finals. We go out partying, end up at the other team's apartments, and the guy hands me a beer and says, so do you really think I shouldn't be on the power play? And I felt so bad. I never chirped a guy again.
Oh, that's kind of a heartbreaking story.
Well, it was mean. I was just being mean. I don't even know why. It was like, it made no sense. And he should have been on the power play. He's a good player. Sorry, Derek. But then, you know, you end up at his apartment. He's giving you a beer and you're like, oh, why'd I say that?
Isn't that great though? That's hockey, right? That's great.
That is.
Can share a beer
after a 7-game series. It was so hard fought. Both teams, you know, appreciated the effort, and we had a time. Actually, the refs were there that night too at the apartment.
No way.
Yeah, they gave me a ride back to the hotel.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. And you know, another guy I was trying to get in the shed, and then he went cold turkey on me, was Rosie.
Oh, Rosie, come on, mate.
Yeah, well, I don't know what happened to him. We were chatting when we were setting it up. He was all excited, and then just the trail went cold.
I will speak to Rosie because, Rosie's got some good stories. He's a good chirper, I think.
Is he still doing it, or he's a ref now? He was a linesman when I was there.
Now, yeah. I think he's still doing it. He's still doing it.
Yeah, he set up my bank account in Wales when I came over, I think.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bank manager Rosie.
Okay. What is the craziest fight you saw as a referee?
Oh, craziest fight. Well, one sticks out. So one of the lockout years, I think maybe 2008 was a lockout year, and we had Eric Cairns playing for the London team that were called London Racers, and we had Wade Belak, who obviously sadly passed away, and both really nice guys. And something happened with the ref on the night between Eric Cairns and the ref, and it just sparked this almighty situation with London, and Cairns ends up getting thrown out. And as he's going off the ice, he just decides to punch at the time, the young Brit Russ Cowley in the face. So Russ Cowley's just on the bench like this. Eric Cairns is getting off and just poof,
Oh, that would hurt.
just pops him. And Belak was like, nah. So Belak comes on the ice, and those two went at it for a good minute, just throwing bombs, proper NHL, heavyweights going at it. And
probably for a lot less money than they usually would make doing that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that was a pretty wild one. I don't know if this was the season you were over, but there was a brawl between, I think it was the Newcastle team and Cardiff in the BBT.
Newcastle wasn't in the league when I was over, so no, it wouldn't have been my time.
It couldn't have been then. Maybe before, but I think you had Devin Didiamite on, right?
He came to the shed. Yeah, that was when I met. He's been on twice now. Yeah, so
yeah. But he's a beauty. He was there. I'm pretty sure he was there that night, and it just kicked off. And it made the front page, and it was the headline in the Wales Gazette or whatever said "Night of Shame," and there's me kind of just pointing like this. You just see the back of me and just an almighty ruckus going on. So that was pretty wild. And I think that was the NHL lockout year as well, because we had Matt Belak playing on one of the actually it might have been Coventry that was there. Coventry against Cardiff. We had Matt Belak because Lee Young said that they were just chirping, and Paul Thompson had lost control of the bench, and they were just chirping us all the way through. And Belak kind of joins in, and Younger goes, "And who are you?" And I just leaned in and I said, that's the NHL guy, Lee. And he goes, "NHL? He must be on the fourth line." And they actually ended up becoming really good friends in games. But yeah, that was that night, the night of shame.
And that did come up in Deeds' first episode. I think it was the George brothers sent me the front page of the Gazette. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys, I guess, kind of get rated on each game. Who decides if you're doing a good job or a bad job?
Do you know what? You'd think that we would get rated, but we really don't. There's, feedback.
So who decides who's going to playoff weekend? Because is that not like, as the refs, are you guys not making it to the final games and reffing the final games? Is that not considered like whoever's the best, or how do you win championships as a ref?
Yeah. I mean, you never win a trophy, but they're the games that you want to do. But Hicksy's just picking, and
right.
Or whoever was the boss at the time was picking. We have had more of a structured evaluation, but I think it's the area that the league needs to. Some people say we should be developing younger players, and the EIHL is not a development league. The EIHL is a professional league, and one of the top 10 in probably in Europe. So it's not a development league. But that said, there's not enough guys coming through, referees.
Yeah.
And I actually think they're going to have a bit of a problem, and it's going to be difficult to get 4 guys out there of the level that you need. There should be more of an evaluation framework, more supervision. Every other league at that level would have, supervision. But the Hicksey does. I think I don't know what Hicksey does this year because I'm not privy to the details. But certainly in my last year, you'd get video clips and you'd get feedback in that way, but nothing particularly as a score.
Nothing formal, right?
Nothing formal. And then but you would kind of have an idea of who was performing and who wasn't, and who's like
basically the same as being a player. When you play good or bad, and it's not like the coach tells you after every game, hey, you get an A or B.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah,
exactly that.
I actually, one tale I got, I remember, is one of the fellas I golfed with at the Devils golf tournament was Ions was his last name, and he was in the crowd having a few pops, and then the linesman got injured, and he came out of the crowd a few beers deep and then was the linesman for the rest of the game. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Good old, we call him Onesie. So James.
And I think that's how it happens, right? You don't have that many refs, but like if a guy's qualified and could do it, just come on out of the crowd and all of a sudden you're in the elite league as a linesman, and then you go from there, right?
Well, Hicksey called a period earlier in this season. He was at home, and there was some mess up with the face-off time or something, and Hicksey wheels his way over there, having probably not stepped on the ice in over 5 years, called a period of hockey, and that's kind of where a lot of guys get their first shot. That's where I got my first shot. My family used to own the Milton Keynes Kings team that played in then the third tier, and then for a few years the second tier, and I was helping them run it, and I was refereeing junior hockey and just finishing up playing, and I was working in the box office for the family business with the hockey, and my old man phoned me and he said, "Where are you?" "I'm selling tickets to fans." He goes, "Go get your equipment. There's no refs assigned to the game," because it was like the pre-season game. So they'd forgotten to assign refs, the league. So I had to go out there and referee it with the other linesman. One linesman was the guy who's now the GB coach of sled hockey, and the Zamboni driver was the other linesman.
And that's hockey. I don't know. I love those stories. That's just how. But then you got to get a chance to prove you can do it, right?
Exactly, and you got to take that chance. Like a lot of young guys, they're like, "How do you get your chance?" You just got to be ready, and then when you get your chance, grab it, do the best you can. And that's not unique even to the UK. That's not even unique to the UK. Like you hear stories about that in the, maybe not now, but certainly 30 years ago in the NHL, you'd hear stories about guys, just stepping in, and how did they get their first shot? Oh, well, they did a game down the road, and then an NHL ref saw them and then told the boss that they should be in the next year's training camp, and then that's how it goes.
Yeah, no, and everybody needs to get a break every once in a while, and obviously you had a passion for it if you're doing it already, and then all of a sudden, if you're passionate and you get the chance, then 22 years later, right?
22 years later, you
haven't had a weekend.
You're talking about it in the shed.
Yeah. Though I would say the EIHL, I really enjoyed the reffing after being in Germany for 6 years, because German refs were the worst ever.
Why?
Brutal. There was some of them there was one guy, this fat slob, a mess of a man. I don't know what his name was, mustache, but like he would be so arrogant, and like even if the guy had made the worst call in the world, if somebody even opened their mouth, he would just tend them up. And he was just an absolute asshole. But you knew what you were getting at the start of the game. You knew not to open your mouth. But it's like, why can't you just be a decent person and ref? That's why I liked you guys. I like going up for a beer with Rosie after the game and shooting the shit about the game or at the BBT. You'd go down to the bar, you'd have a beer with the refs after the game, right? That's hockey.
That's hockey. I think the EIHL has a North American style.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is also the way that the officiating is. My little rule in my head for misconduct penalties was you could literally say anything to me. You could come and say quietly, like, you're a prick, this is bullshit, like whatever. As soon as you made it a big song and dance to the crowd,
Showing
that was
you
the
up.
line.
Yeah.
That was the line for me. And I love him to bits, but Franny was one of the worst for that. Because Franny would be there like swinging a towel around and, you know, smashing clipboards and whatever. And I really love Franny, and I got a lot of time for him. But, you know, I threw him out on more than one game where he was like making a show. But you could literally say anything to me and I would say it back to you. And I think, you know, I saw just yesterday, Tim Peel tweeted, you know, it's 1 year since he got caught on a mic. He had his mic accidentally on and he got fired from the NHL or retirement brought forward because I think he was, you know, going to call it a day anyway. But he just got caught on a microphone doing something every single ref in that situation has done before. Saying something to a player because there's that two-way communication. But I think in Europe, that is just the way. It's a lot more, I am the referee and these are the rules and it's very black and white. And hockey isn't black and white. Hockey's gray. There's so much gray area to it.
There's different times of the game that a hook is a penalty and isn't a penalty, right?
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. That's the game management piece that I spoke about earlier. And I still think that that's the best way to call a game. I think they're trying to make it less like that, trying to make it, you know, more black and white, but there's still going to be areas of gray. And, you know, I think if you can work to that kind of thing and understand that respect both ways, player, coach, and the officials, I think that makes for a better spectacle. But yeah, the number of times teams went away to Continental Cup or whatever, and then they'd come back and they'd be like, oh, we thought you guys were shit, but we're glad to see you.
Oh yeah. No, because once you get out into Europe and you see some of the reffing going on, it is wild how bad they are. But I agree totally, is that I obviously everybody knows how much I love playing the EIHL there at the end, but like it was because you could banter with the refs, you could banter with the linesmen, like you could let them know when they sucked and they'd let you know when you sucked, and then you'd go for a pint after and it'd be like, well, that was a good game, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the same with the guy I was talking about around here, is he was ref in Senior A, and we had become friends off the ice. We'd go for a pint, and then I'm playing Senior A, he's reffing, and there was some stuff I thought should have been called because I was getting abused and he wasn't calling it. And then we have our mother effer, what the F, and you know, we say what we got to say, and then the game would end and we'd be like, so what'd you think? You know?
Yeah.
You leave it on the ice. You get very passionate while you're playing hockey and you might say some things, but like, don't be a wuss about it, right?
Well, I think, you know, you need to have a bit of an understanding of the pressure, and, you know, a team that's, you know, down by a goal or up by a goal and loses the game, and, you know, they think you got to you get a lot more respect as a ref if you let them let off that steam. And that's what stood me well, I think, with most players. Not all players. There were players that I just didn't enjoy sharing the ice with, but that's just,
there's
don't
lots
enjoy...
of players I didn't enjoy sharing the ice with. We talked about Noble, and then there's that other guy in Belfast, that Lloyd guy. He was a bit of a donkey out there too.
Daryl Lloyd. I actually quite liked that. But yeah, he was another one played on the edge. I kind of liked those. I don't mind playing
on the edge, but when you're slew-footing people in the UK league,
that's,
you know.
Yeah, that's and he did do that. You know, guys like Bruce Richardson and you know, those kind of real energy players that just brought a lot of intensity and sometimes blew a gasket.
Say an Andrew Lord.
Yeah.
That guy, like, I had never seen a guy work so hard. When he was the player coach and he would go out there first shift of the game and just try so goddamn hard that you're like, well, we better do that. He's the coach too.
Yeah. And do you know what? Lordo would be so intense on the bench and would be, you could see steam coming out of his ears sometimes.
You actually can see steam come out of his ears. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then, you'd see him in the bar after. I remember in Belfast, you guys, I think, I can't remember the result, but there'd been a tense moment in the game. And then you guys rocked up to the bar that I was in, or I rocked up to the bar you were in. And he was the first one over. Hey, man, how's it going, Dance? Yeah, cool. Let me buy you a beer. And, that's hockey.
Yeah, you leave it all out on the ice, right? And then that's where it should stay.
Yeah, some guys don't. Some guys don't. Some guys take it game to game. There's one or two examples where I just struggled with players like that, and you kind of go to the next game, and he's like, "Oh, you owe me one for this." I'm like, "Are you serious?" I put that to bed.
Yeah. It's one game at a time, right? It's like you might owe me one that game, but that doesn't carry over.
No, there's no
carryovers. No.
That's not in the rules.
Okay. What is your favorite barn that you reffed in?
Oh, favorite barn. I mean, I can tell you my least favorite barn for sure. Coventry.
Yeah, it's
shit ice, shit lights, terrible changing rooms.
And the nets keep coming off, right? Like, say you're that goalie Stewart, right? Every time the Cardiff Devils come into your end, you just knock the net off, right? Pretty simple.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy that, but you forget about it 30 seconds in. It's like whatever. My favorite, I love the bit. I really enjoyed doing games in the BBT. I kind of got a bit sad when I walked into the new rink. I mean, the new rink's obviously for the future, but I walked into the new rink and it felt too clinical and bright. And I was like, oh, that's a shame.
I hate all new arenas. I hate them all.
Yeah.
I actually do. I like old rinks, and I wish they just fix up the old ones and make new ones. But I understand the money side of it too, right?
Yeah, you got to make it a nice product for the fans. I liked, Nottingham and Belfast, and then I guess
you like Nottingham.
Yeah.
What is there to like about that? It's a huge ice. It would be pretty well dead in there usually. Like, it wasn't rocking ever, unless it's playoff weekend. And then, like, it's just so far to gosh darn skate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It's too warm.
Every so often you like staying in a 5-star hotel. It kind of feels a bit nice and cozy.
There's more things to it, eh? Yeah, okay. Probably behind the nightlife or something. Yeah.
Yeah, we got looked after, behind the scenes really well, and there's like those little perks. But yeah, I mean, a Sunday night or whatever, a Saturday night in Fife in that barn, I used to love that.
Oh, when they got the bagpipes and the people in kilts, man, that was like, oh boy.
Yeah. And you get big like chips and like curry sauce after brought to you, and
really, chips and curry sauce, eh? That doesn't agree with my body odor. It makes me smell bad. But they wouldn't. Isn't that the place where they'd have the deep fries Mars bars or something?
I don't know if that's a myth, but I've never had one.
It's
my
real.
body is a temple.
Oh, really?
It's real?
Yeah, it's real. I definitely had. Dougie Clarkson showed me, and we tried one out. Yeah, I didn't think it was that good. It's just.
Yeah, my body is definitely not a temple, by the way. That was
mine is. Mine's all natural too.
Natural, 100%.
I had another question that popped in my head. I know we have a schedule today, right? I got the real world, and you got to do shit too. But what do refs and linesmen do before games? Because I'm pretty sure I've seen refs playing 2-touch. Are you a 2-toucher?
I'm a big 2-toucher. We also invented, so they call it pig in the continent, and they go hard at it, and actually potential injuries before, where it's a little bit of a developed 2-touch. And then we created a new one called pig tennis. Which
you're saying it's called pig. It's because you get 3 lives. So if you screw up, it's a P, because you just don't have enough players. You're not a full team where if you screw up, you're out of that game, right? You got to have 3 lives.
Exactly. In Denmark, you get 4 because it's called gris. I think it's gris. Gris is pig. So you get 4 lives. But we developed the game a little bit and created a bit of a two-touch tennis, pig tennis, which was fun. But yeah, we do the same sort of stuff, like a warm-up, stretching. Everyone has their little routine around, getting a coffee or, taking a walk, or, if you're Lee Young, you kind of just walk slowly around and make sure everyone sees you. And, same sort of stuff. I mean, we're just frustrated, terrible hockey players that didn't make it, so we became refs.
And you're still part of the game, and like, look at the memories you have over the 22 years, right?
Exactly. 0 trophies, and there we go.
Well, yeah, it's hard to win trophies as a ref, I guess. What else do I got then? But would you consider yourself very competitive? Like, are refs competitive?
Yeah. I have a level of competitiveness. This is going to sound a bit ego, but I did 5 finals as a ref, 3 as a linesman. So 8 years of 22, I did the final game.
That's pretty impressive, man.
So,
and you're allowed to say nice things when you're in the shed. You're allowed to like be proud of what you've accomplished. It's a podcast. Yeah. You're allowed to.
So was I competitive to get that final game? Absolutely. Was I gutted if I didn't get it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel really satisfied with what I achieved as a ref. And there's guys that have never done a final, and every year that's their goal, to do that. And I wish them well, because it does mean something. And I quite often they're the easiest games to call, actually. Quite often, because the game just happens.
Yeah.
Guys go hard at it. Idiots don't play like idiots. It's pretty rare you need to call many penalties. The intensity is there, but it's all fair, and it's just done, as you would expect in that kind of stature of game, and you just let the game take place. But it's the prestige of being selected to do that. You're like,
yeah.
Well,
it's like trying to win your trophy, right? Like, that's what you play it for. Yeah. I did it. Okay. So have you ever been to Chippy Lane in Cardiff?
Hell yeah.
What do you order? Are you talking chips and the curry sauce still?
I'm actually, I have a nickname, which is Double Dinner Darnell, because I eat a lot of food, and I go to town in that alley.
You run a mock, eh?
Yeah. So I'd probably get like a chicken kebab and fries, with maybe a cheeseburger chaser.
Really? You're chasing it with a cheeseburger, eh?
Yeah, a cheeseburger chaser. Why not?
Hey, win in Rome, right? Oh, that's
what was
awesome.
your speciality? What was your specialty?
I'm a lamb kebab guy. I just, I loved it and all. It's just, I wish that I could have brought my kebab shops from Germany to Chippy Lane, but they were doing their best. They were trying hard. Love the game.
Were you like a kebab skewer, or the shaved?
The shaved off once you start rotating meat on a stick, oh God, I get hot and bothered. Yeah. And you start shaving that off. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Then you get some tzatziki out, maybe a splash of sriracha, and you're in business, right?
Oh man, you're making me hungry now.
Oh, is it hungry? I kind of feel hot and bothered. I actually got some donair meat in the house. I think I know what's for dinner tonight.
There you go. Set.
So where did you ref in the Danish league? What places did you go to?
I can't pronounce most of them. I mean, there's Frederick Chauvin. That's it. That one. And a lot of the time spent around all of those teams in Copenhagen.
That would have been more fun for you guys, eh?
Well, when you're out in those other towns, Odense and Sunderuski, yeah. There's nothing to do after the game. You kind of
imagine playing hockey there all year. There is nothing.
Go to the hotel.
Yeah. You go to your
apartment, you go to the hotel,
learn how to cook.
you check in on what's happened back in the EIHL that night, and you're like, you've called 3 minor penalties in a game that went on for 1 hour and 50 minutes. And then you go and you check in and you look at a game that faced off half an hour earlier that's still going, and it's got 427 penalty minutes. And you're like, yes.
That's high. Yeah, I know.
But yeah, around Copenhagen was fun. We used to get deployed all over the place, but they used to.
So then who's paying for that? Because obviously all those lower league, not lower, whatever league you want to call Denmark and the EIHL, I would say middle tier of Europe. But like, somebody's paying for you guys to travel there. So they're obviously always trying to cut costs in those leagues usually, right? So who's fronting the bill to move you guys around?
Yeah, they were paying for it, but they actually, so Hicksy ran the hockey ops over there after he stopped reffing here. And he explained it to me. He was like, it's actually cheaper for us to fly you to Sunderjyske.
Sunderjyske. Hey, nice gold helmet in the background, eh? See that thing? Where is it? Oh, right there. There's the gold helmet.
Oh, you've got that.
Oh, yeah.
Top scorer jersey as well, or just that one?
That wasn't for top scorer. That's for winning the championship in Denmark. I am a metal Ligaen champion. Yeah. Germany had the gold helmet, but
no. Was it Dan? Was Dan Seaman the coach?
Yeah. Yeah.
I must have reffed that year.
He
was there for a few years though, was he?
Yeah, I was one of his first ever signings as the head coach of Sunderjyske. And he's a former Shed guy, and he just got a job somewhere coaching somewhere. I forget. Too much happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was cheaper sometimes for them to fly me in and do a game there than get a guy from Copenhagen to drive all the way down over the bridge, do a game there.
Oh, the bridge in Denmark. That's a big bridge. Yeah. Copenhagen to the rest of it, right?
There's two. There's that one, and then there's the infamous bridge to Sweden.
And I never did that. When I was there, I should have done that.
I did it. I never intended to do it, but I did it a number of times by accident because our hotel was on the last exit before the bridge if we were in Copenhagen, and more than once we missed the exit, and you can't turn around until you get to Sweden.
Well, I couldn't believe when we went to Copenhagen to get like Colby's passport done or something. And we drive there, and I had been in Sunderjyske or Voyance, and there wasn't a lot to do. I'm not saying anything negative. Great organization, won the championship, worked hard, loved the game. But we went to Copenhagen for a day to get passports, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at all the stuff to do. There's people around, they're doing stuff. I thought playing on a Copenhagen team would be way more fun.
Yeah, I think so. But you won a championship, so
right.
They didn't. They're distracted. It's like Nottingham. That's why they don't win, because they're distracted by what's around them.
What we used to do was we had our dog. That was last year. Our dog came with us, and I would walk the dog with Colby in the stroller. And yeah, there's a lot of wild flowers in Denmark. I don't know if you know that, but here's my romantic one. We used to walk around and pick wildflowers for Mummy.
That's very cute. I've learned something today.
Yeah, I'm a romantic. There's no doubt. Right. Okay. Is there ever a time where you were like, I blew it? That call, I blew it. What's the worst one you ever had? Because for me, while you think of it though, in Germany, I still remember this play. Was I block a shot on the PK? I get like a partial breakaway. I'm not that fast. So the guy starts catching me, and I go in to shoot, and he slashes me and breaks my stick in half on a breakaway. And the ref didn't call anything and said I like broke my stick on the shot or something. And then obviously the next period he comes out to me and he says, hey man, I apologize. I screwed up.
Fair enough. If you're going to own it. There was probably 2 or 3 that stick out, which is probably quite worrying. There's probably more.
That's not that bad in 22 years.
Yeah, there was one that sticks out, which is particularly annoying because it stopped me going to the playoff final. There was a player at Hull called, I think his surname was Gamaniak, and he went knee to knee. And I thought he'd just stayed on rails and that it was just an unfortunate collision.
But he had
And
stuck
then
it out.
as soon as you see it back on the tape from the other side, you just go, oh my good God, that is absolutely horrific. And what really annoyed me about that is I just hate those cheap plays. And I would pride myself on always picking those up. And I just said to, I was like, guys, he for me, I'm behind him. He's on rails. But he just
and you can't and you couldn't see that leg move out because you're probably seeing the other leg, right? That's it's blocking it, so you don't see it. Yeah, those are the dirty plays. Yeah,
I didn't like that one. And actually, the one Guy Lepine was kind of battling a guy on a breakaway, and he kind of stick, and and it was a 3-man system. So I'm like at the far blue line, busting my balls to try and get in and get a sight. And I'd gone all the way into the middle of the ice to look, which actually ended up being a terrible position because I was just behind them. So anyway, I think he gets a good stick lift. And Lee Young, he kind of skates by. And I say to him quickly, like, should I put my arm in the air or not? And he's like, I don't know, dude. So I'm not going to guess. And, puck goes away. And we're just lining up for the next face-off. And Guy Lepine leans over and he goes, 100% penalty shot. I literally hooked his arms away. I'm like, damn it.
Shoot. I think it's the same as an umpire in baseball. Like as soon as that pitch comes in, it's either a ball or a strike. If you don't call it right away, the refs that piss me off are the ones where a guy gets taken down and then the whole crowd goes, ooh, and then the ref's like, okay. And it's like, well, stand by your word. If you weren't putting your hand up until the crowd started oohing, then don't put your hand up, right?
Yeah. And, I think that's true. You need to go on your instinct, and, your instinct, if you've done it long enough and you've seen a lot of those situations, is usually correct. And sometimes your linesman can help you a little bit. And with the 4-man, it makes it a lot easier. But if you're not going to make a decision in that moment, then you're probably going to just overthink it.
Right. Overthinking's never good, is it? No, just go with it.
Just go with the flow.
Yeah. There was something else I wanted to say before we shut it down. Gosh darn it. The one thing I really appreciated about playing in the UK though was like, we talk about how it's North American style hockey, which it was, but North American pro is vicious. The players aren't a team. It's quite the thing. People have heard me talk about it, but you get over to the UK and it's not just the players, it's the fans and it's the refs, it's the refereeing teams that make it like a family. Like we'd go into the big blue tent, and I've been playing in Germany and Denmark, and like I didn't know one ref's name ever. And then I play a year or two in Cardiff. I know all the refs' names. I've had beers with them, and I'm like, and like you banter and you go back and forth and you talk, and it's like, this is hockey and it's a family. It's better than North American pro because from the refs to the fans to the players, it's a hockey family, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I have the reference point of Denmark, where it was definitely, much more segregated away. Definitely not as, probably severe as a Germany or East Coast or something like that. But I hope it stays like that. I just get this sense that
it's changing, right? I remember going up for a beer with Rosie, right? He's the linesman in Cardiff. We'd go up and literally sit there and have a couple pints and just shoot the shit. And I don't think there's many leagues in the world that are going to let the linesman or the ref even talk to a player after a game, right?
Yeah. And I think just generally, I don't know what, I think social media is to blame a lot. I talk about this a lot about, the hockey family is great while it's actually true, but too often people forget it. And it's like, it's the hockey family, but when it suits me, when it doesn't suit me and I want to call you a prick and I want to go online and rant about this and the player that's had a couple of bad, games and
there's that's the negative people, right? Those are those people we're talking about that Yeah, we
they
don't.
get amplified a bit now, and I hope that it keeps that spirit to it, because it's certainly, I guess, what kept me in it for so long. And the referee community is a family, and you generally feel like you've got a good vibe with the players, and the coaching team, and a lot of the fans. And it's too easy, I guess, to navigate to the negatives. You need to switch that off a little bit.
Yeah.
But I hope it stays like that, because I do hear that a lot, and I'm glad that's what you think and the memory you have of it.
Well, it is, and I hope it is still the same. And I don't know. I was those years in that league brought my love back for the game, and then obviously you get hurt and it's taken away from you again. And now I got it again with my under 11s, right?
Yeah,
and the shed.
Exactly. Well, and the shed. That's the ebb and flow of life. And yeah, you tend to come back to the things you're passionate about. So
Yes, you definitely do. But well, I don't think I really have anything else for you, because you got to go. I got to go. We're busy folks, right?
we got to get back and do some work here.
Yeah. But seriously, thank you so much. And I always appreciate good dudes, and you can tell which refs were good dudes when you're playing. The players know. I remember, like, you don't really think about it till later on in hockey, but like, I remember you'd show up to a game and they're like, well, this guy's reffing or that guy's reffing. And it's like, I don't care. I'm just going out to play. But it does matter who's reffing the game. It does change the game. Like, and it changes the vibe of the game. And I appreciated your reffing. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciated your playing.
It didn't last long over there.
No, but the team, that moment, that team that you guys had in that moment was one of the ones that, stepped it up a notch. You brought a level that was probably other teams had to wake up to it and go, okay, we got to kind of level up here. And I think, that made the whole league just better. And I always enjoyed you on the ice and a lot of your teammates, and fond memories.
Oh, it was really fun, and it's great to relive this shit. And thank you very much for coming to the shed. And this has been another episode of Zero Ales and Hockey Tales with Darns and Wally.